Today on the Locked On Blues podcast, the St. Louis Blues win streak was vanquished at the hands of Stanley Cup rival Boston Bruins. However, the point streak still remains. They did lose 3-2 in overtime, so win streak is over, but point streak is still there. So we were talking about that game. And then after that, we're going to be going into the St. Louis Blues latest game of the season, I believe, tonight at 10:30 Eastern Time, 9:30 Central, against the San Jose Sharks, a team that they have really owned for the past few years. So a little bit of a somber beginning to the episode with a loss to talk about for the first time in forever. But after that, we'll get back into the positive vibes because the Blues have a pretty opportune chance to get a win tonight against the Sharks. Make sure you stay tuned.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Locked On Blues podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and your number one source for daily Blues content. I'm Josh Hyman, and I'm joined, as always, by Thomas Welch. We had a fun episode for you guys today, like I said. Before we get into it, wanted to thank anyone and everyone out there for making Locked On Blues your first listen, because we are free and available on all podcast platforms. All right, Tommy, so for the first time in a very long time, we got to have a negative vibes segment in our episode, at least a little bit. Because we did lose a hockey game. I forgot what it felt like, but it happened. Lost it overtime, like we've done a lot this year, against the Boston Bruins. What do you think? Are you worried? You panicked?
Oh, I'm terrified, dude. The Blues just looked absolutely awful. They came out there flat-footed and just a despicable performance from this team. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, like the winning streak came to an end, but I mean, unless the Blues won every game for the rest of the season and the rest of the postseason, it was always going to have to come to an end at some point, right? And from their performance, like, yeah, you can say the Blues came out flat. They didn't have a great second period. Didn't have a great third period. They were a little bit slow, and I think it just boils down to the fact they're fatigued. I mean, this team's played a lot of games in the month of April already. At the point when they played the Bruins, they played 3 games in the span of 4 days, I believe. So, I mean, that's going to take a toll on anybody, even the hottest team in the NHL right now. So, at the end of the day, am I worried? No. Is this team still Stanley Cup bound potentially with the way that they're playing right now? Are they an absolute wagon? Absolutely 100% yes, and I'm still 100% all the way on board.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the losing streak was going to come to an end eventually. They're still, 11-0-2 in their last 13 games, with one of those losses coming in a game against the Edmonton Oilers where they were down 5-1 or something like that, 4-1, something crazy like that. And then another one coming against maybe the second hottest team in the NHL. Well, not so much as of late, but one of the hottest teams in the NHL in the Boston Bruins, team that always matches up against them. Well, you can't be upset. Those losses were going to happen, and the point streak is still there. I don't really.
I think they're going for the longest in franchise history tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
The longest point streak in franchise history. I'm gonna have to look that up while you're talking. But yeah, I mean, anytime you can string a win streak together that long, it's impressive, and it means they're doing a lot of things right. And I don't think that we really saw anything in that Bruins game that was like bad habits rearing their ugly head or anything like that. Like anything that like we would be concerned would carry over into the San Jose game. You know, they struggled in the second period a little bit, but they've historically dominated second periods this season. And, you know, they weren't the best on special teams. They were historically really good on special teams. I don't really think that there's anything that I'm like, oh, man, if this happens in the Sharks game tonight as well, I'm worried. I think that they played as well as they could have given the circumstances. And I still think this team has as much potential as they've had before their win streak was snapped.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that you can't get too far one way or the other. especially when it comes to the regular season, just because the playoffs are such a different beast, like we always say. But I mean, it's hard not to get excited about what this roster looks like on paper and the performance that we've been seeing from this offense as of late, especially the Buchnevich, Thomas, and Tarasenko line. I think you were saying before the podcast that the top 3 goal scorers in the month of April for the entire
Not goal
NHL
scorers, points.
to top 3 point getters in the entire month of April for the entire NHL are those 3: Robert Thomas,
Yeah.
Tarasenko, and Buchnevich.
And it's not even close. We should take a little bit to talk about that. Month of April is coming to a close, kind of, sort of. And in terms of the entire NHL, if you made a list of points for the month of April, it is Vladimir Tarasenko, Robert Thomas, and Pavel Buchnevich, and then nobody is within 3 points of them. The next person has three less points than the 3 of those guys. So they are not only are they 1, 2, and 3, they're kind of a step ahead of the rest of the competition, which is ridiculous. I feel like anytime you see a line heat up like that, there's always kind of one guy that runs away with it, 2 guys that run away with it. But to have all 3, 21 points, 20 points, and 20 points in the month of April just goes to show how well they're clicking and how well they're playing together.
Yeah, so it's going to be exciting to watch them. I mean, if you can even fathom what their play might look like in the playoffs if they take it up a notch, I mean, how can you not be excited about this team going into the first round matchup, which is all but locked against the Minnesota Wild? I think
it is locked if they get a point tonight.
If they get a point tonight. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. And we've had the Minnesota Wild's number over the last 3 years as well. So like your chances in that matchup, like our chances tonight against the San Jose Sharks, because we've had their number as well. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. In this second segment, we're going to sort of transition into, a preview of that San Jose Sharks game. Still a little bit of housekeeping to wrap up, just from we took a day off from the episode, so couple things to go over as well. But yeah, second and third segment, we're going to really be previewing tonight's Sharks game and then giving an outlook on the last, 5 games left? The last 5 games of the regular season. We're getting down to the wire, so make sure you stay tuned. But first, I wanted to tell you guys about one of our newer sponsors, and that is Shady Rays. Now, Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of a $200 pair of sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' Insane Protection Program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They'll send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happens. So give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays, exclusively for our listeners. So head to shadyrays.com, use code LOCKEDON. You'll get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews, and we'll be right back. All right, Tommy. So we spent a segment kind of talking a little negative, not really, for the first time in a long time. But, I think there were positive elements in that Bruins game. It wasn't all positive. Yeah. So, yeah, Robert Thomas's tip was on point in that game. Pause. Bigger pause. No, but we can talk about that. But yeah, I mean, the offensive magic was still there. And just to go over that goal again, I mean, scramble sort of at the end of the period, Vladimir Tarasenko, great awareness of the clock winding down. Kind of just throws a backhand floater on net. Robert Thomas coming across the crease, times it absolutely perfectly.
1v1 rust.
Sticks his stick out, bounces the puck past the goalie. Beautiful goal. Kind of even difficult to figure out what happened at first if you're watching in real time. But yeah, amazing goal there.
Yeah, dude, I think it's just another element of the confidence that we've seen from Robert Thomas. I mean, when you're out there pirouetting and doing 360s in front of the net and still manage to score. I mean,
looked like
it just looks like easy.
Looks like Jeff Skinner pulling off his figure skating moves out there.
Literally, yeah. It's just it almost it's like goal scoring comes second nature to Robert Thomas these days, which is weird because 2 months ago we were yelling at the dude, please, for the love of God, shoot the puck. And now we're like, okay, not shoot it less, but like, I mean, the dude's scoring on 360 tips. So it's like he's come a long way in a short amount of time. And I think it is just due to confidence. Like, I think the goal scoring has always been there. But his bread and butter was always making those passes and setting up teammates, and probably take a lot of pride in that as like being a center and being that playmaker role. But when you can kind of have a double-edged sword like Robert Thomas has when it comes to that skill set of offensive production, I mean, we've seen it in juniors. Like, this dude can score the puck. He can set up his teammates like nobody's business. Like, probably like one of the best passers in the league by a long shot. But he also has one-on-one skills, which I think we've seen flashes of at times. Like when he's skating over the blue line, he'll just do some kind of like cheeky, like between the legs thing. But like, I think when it comes down to it, like if he had a one-on-one with a D-man and said like, hey, break this guy's ankles and then go score, I think if he really wanted to, he could do it. I think it's just another level of that confidence to where we can see his full game and his full potential take its form. He's only 22 years old, so I don't think he's near what he's capable of, but I think he's showing flashes of what he's capable of, and that is promising for any Blues fan, and especially for friends of the pod like we are with Robert Thomas.
That's very true. One other element that I want to talk about is the penalty kill for the St. Louis Blues. I don't know what the game streak is, but the Blues haven't allowed a power play goal against in a very long time. I don't know what the statistic is, but it's relevant to the point of when you get into the playoffs, a lot of times, a lot of games are going to be kind of decided by that special teams edge. And the Blues have had a really strong power play all season. The penalty kill has been fine. But now all of a sudden, the penalty kill is coming out and literally making it impossible to score. What have you seen, Tommy, you think, out of that penalty kill and just out of the Blues defense in general that's kind of changed a little bit recently, kind of flipped the script and been dominant at times?
I think it's just an identity thing, because obviously, like, the talk of the town at the trade deadline was losing Oscar Sundqvist, who, like, you can talk about like being a shell of his former self, even though he certainly doesn't look like it in his short stint with the Detroit Red Wings. He seems like he's scoring every night. But that was a big part of the Blues penalty kill, was Oscar Sundqvist, and dropping down, blocking shots, being aggressive on the forecheck and the back check, and winning those board battles. And I think the Blues realized that they kind of had to step that up in his absence, and they had guys that were able to do so. So it was just kind of banding together and say, hey, like, we're not going to let this affect our penalty kill overall. And just kind of every individual stepping up their game, especially like Marco Scandella, dude. I mean, I know we mentioned it in passing a couple episodes, like that he's been good for the Blues, but like, I think it's underestimated how much of an impact his play and how much it's completely turned like a 180 from just absolutely ragging on him all season long to what we're seeing now. I mean, the dude is about as reliable as a D-man that you could have in the back end right now. So
I mean, that. I talked about it a lot in my solo episode that I did a few days ago, just how having a defensive group of having Parayko and Scandella on one pairing, Falk and Leddy on another, and then you pop up the third pairing who's headlined by Torrey Krug. This defense all of a sudden is starting to look a little scary. You know, they're still not at the level that they were in 2019. You know, they're not that powerhouse, suffocating, impossible to score on defense. But all of a sudden, this defense is sort of transitioning into what was absolutely the weakest point of the St. Louis Blues to almost a positive, if I might even go that far.
Yeah, and even bringing in Nick Leddy. I mean, you obviously have Torrey Krug, who's a power play quarterback through and through. But I think at times when we've seen Nick Leddy on the power play, he's done just as well. So really bringing him in to be an offensive guy and move the puck more so than lock it down and be a shutdown defenseman, which is, I think, a lot of what Blues fans were looking for at the deadline. Obviously, Doug Armstrong had different ideas, but I don't think those different ideas were wrong, or that those different ideas haven't been executed, because, I mean, playing keep away and keeping the puck in the offensive zone for the St. Louis Blues is probably the best defense that you could probably ask for. And I think Nick Leddy does a fantastic job of that, along with transitioning out of the zone. Torrey Krug plays into that as well. So if the Blues are just playing keep away in the offensive zone, that benefits the offense, that benefits the defense because they're not as stressed out about blocking shots and getting down and winning those crease battles in front of the goaltending. And it helps the goaltending because they're not staring down the barrel of the gun for a solid 5-10 minutes or however long the opposition is just barreling down on the D. So I think it takes off a lot of pressure in really all three zones of the game. And that's extremely beneficial for a Blues team that, as we talked about and as we've seen, has struggled defensively at times this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here in this third segment, we're going to hope that all of the positives that we talked about in the second segment can come together in a W for the Blues, because it's been oh so long since we've seen one of those. As they take on the San Jose Sharks tonight at like literally midnight, pretty much. A late game. I'll be delirious by the time the final buzzer goes off. But let's hope, as I am fighting back sleep and trying to stay awake, that I'm watching.
Just watch with one eye open.
Yeah, watching Jordan Binnington and the St. Louis Blues celebrate a victory tonight against the San Jose Sharks. So in this third segment, we're going to get into the keys of how they can do that, especially with Jordan Binnington starting in goal. Should be an exciting game. Should be a tough one to get through on my end, just because it is going to be literally 1 a.m. by the time it finishes.
Just subscribe to a new streaming service called The Back of Your Eyelids.
Honestly, just gonna get like the Neuralink feed of the game in my head. Gonna get Elon Musk up in here.
There you go.
If you want to bet on whether or not I'll stay awake through the game, you can't find that on betonline.net. Maybe you can just like message me on Twitter and I'll send you a Venmo or something. But if you want to bet on literally anything else, you got to check out betonline.net. Because betonline.net is your number one source for all betting stats and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet online where the game starts, and we'll be right back with the third segment of today's episode. All right, Tommy, I got a question. When you were like younger, like living with your parents and stuff, like getting into video games and you're playing late at night, and you got to celebrate, but you got to do that whisper yell. You're like, yeah, let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's going to be us tonight, because this game is late as heck. 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central. By the time the puck drops, it's going to be close to 11. It's going to be crazy. So, especially me with a roommate, paper thin walls here at this apartment complex, I'm going to be doing that whispered cheer. What are the keys to get as many whispered cheers as possible tonight? What do the Blues need to do to come away with a victory against the San Jose Sharks? Maybe get that 4+ goal game streak back in action. Should be a fun game. What do you think are the keys to success?
I think, much like any game that the St. Louis Blues play, it's going to weigh heavily on their offense to produce. But I think that depth scoring is going to play a major role here too, because I mean, the Sharks have a first line of Timo Meier, Tomas Hertl, and Jonathan Dahlen, and Dahlen, the jury's still out on, but Hertl and Meier are their bread and butter. I mean, that they've been riding their coattails. That's been most of their success this season has come through those two. So those guys will probably stack up pretty well against whatever Blues line goes up against them. But after that, it kind of falls off, and I think that's where the Blues kind of like shark mentality. They're just going to be circling them. They're playing the Sharks, but they're going to be circling them like all game, right? And then waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. And I think that is the opportunity to strike when they roll out that second line matchup, that third line matchup, that fourth line matchup where they're not so much 50-50, not even close to 60-40, but it's like 70-30 in favor of the St. Louis Blues. And I think that's where the Blues are going to be successful against the San Jose Sharks. Defense does their thing. Goaltending continues to be hot. Whoever's in net, I think Jordan Binnington's making the start tonight, but it really doesn't matter at this point because both of them have been hot, and hopefully he continues that momentum into the playoffs. So the question of who starts game one becomes even more difficult because that's a great problem to have.
Tommy, I'm looking at the San Jose Sharks daily faceoff right now. I dare you to name one player in their bottom six. One player.
One player.
With just off the top of the dome.
I can't. I know they got Bonino, but I don't think he's playing. I don't think he's playing in the bottom six.
Second line left wing, Nick Bonino.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't
so
know.
you give up?
Yeah.
Acceptable answers would have been Rudolph's Balsers, Thomas Bordeleau, Noah Gregor, who I've heard of. I've heard of like 3 of these guys. Scott Reedy, Sasha Chmelski.
You don't know Sasha? Sasha and I go way back.
I've heard that name. I just was stumbling a little bit over the
I've never heard that name in my life.
Closeness of vowels or of consonants in that last name. And Jeffrey Veal. So, yeah, not too familiar with the
not so much the star power that the St. Louis Blues have.
No, not
on their
quite.
Third line.
Not
You heard of Jordan Kyrou? Yeah, he's on the Blues' third line. Possibly fourth. I don't know.
That's okay because they got first line, our first pairing left defenseman Mario Ferraro. Obviously,
he's actually been really good for them this season.
No, I know he has. It's just a whole lot of names that aren't familiar with the San Jose Sharks. No, but I think you're right. I mean, anytime you go into an NHL game, no matter who the opponent is, jokes on the Sharks aside, you can lose if you don't play prepared, if you don't come in prepared. And it seems like it's a pretty simple recipe for success tonight against the San Jose Sharks. The Blues have the depth advantage. That top line of the Sharks can probably stack up with the top line of the Blues, and Brent Burns is Brent Burns, and they have a defense that's pretty able of carrying their own weight. A lot of injuries for the Sharks as well.
And also a lot of Sharks fans want Brent Burns to play forward. So if that tells you anything about what his skill set brings, that is a hole that the Blues can absolutely penetrate offensively, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, we're pushing the envelope with this one, huh? That's twice now. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of just getting back down to basics in terms of doing what worked amongst that win streak and amongst the point streak that they're still riding. It's you can't get too arrogant, like we said. James Reimer is starting in net for the San Jose Sharks. He's seen his way around the NHL. He's not going to be an easy guy to crack there at the goaltending position.
He was hot earlier this season too.
Yeah, exactly. So
I don't know what he's been up to lately, but I know he got hurt for a little bit. So we'll see.
The Blues are going to have their work cut out for them. Obviously, they're not playing the Boston Bruins again. They're not playing a huge playoff contender, but it's the Sharks. We know what it's like to play against the Sharks. They're going to be pesky. They're going to make it tough on you. So again, I think it just comes down to sticking to basics, and if the Blues do that, they'll be able to come away with a victory. That being said, Tommy, who is your pick for locked on player of the game? And why?
I haven't checked the lineup, so I don't know if he's playing or not. But I was talking to another Blues fan today about just the Blues in general.
And they were like, Blues fans?
They were saying, who do you think is the most underrated player on the St. Louis Blues right now? And they were bringing up Robert Thomas and they were bringing up Jordan Kyrou. And although I feel like those are great players, obviously, and a lot of like the NHL is still learning a lot about them. And obviously, we're behind them 100%. Even Robert Thomas is getting a ton of national attention now. I feel like everyone's opinion of those two players are a lot closer to where they should be now. And I'm looking for more of like a dark horse, like way far off like expectations. So I think an extremely underrated player on the St. Louis Blues right now who is not even close to the potential that they could possibly bring to the NHL, but has a lot of potential in the NHL is Logan Brown. I think he's got the size of an NHLer. He's got the hands. He's got the speed, and his shot absolutely plays. He kind of reminds me, his play style reminds me of Tage Thompson. Obviously, like Tage scoring 30-plus goals this year and doing great things for the Sabres, having that same kind of career path, even if he's a late bloomer, would be fantastic for Logan Brown. That being said, he's a long way from getting there. He's a lot of work from getting there, but I think that he's capable. So I'm going to go with locked on player of the game, dark horse, Logan Brown.
Yeah, and Logan Logan Brown is playing. He is the fourth line center.
I like
Tommy,
that.
I'm gonna ride your coattails a little bit and sort of hop on with that similar energy. I want to talk about a guy that I've always had an affinity for as a St. Louis Blues fan. And if Logan Brown's going to have success tonight, then one of his line mates is probably also going to have success tonight. So I'm banking on you being correct because I think Nathan Walker is going to have himself a night. I think he thrives in games like this, games that are a little gritty, little physical, little less skill based, a little more just getting down to the, like I said, the meat and potatoes, if you will. And if you're talking depth scoring, you're talking about that fourth line. And Nathan Walker's got himself close to 10 goals this season. Always looks like he's having an absolute blast out there. And I love when he plays with Logan Brown. And I know Toropchenko's not playing tonight, but I love when the three of them play together and it's 6'6" Logan Brown, 6'6" Alexei Toropchenko, and then 5'7" or 5'8" Nathan Walker. It is a hilarious image. But he plays above his height. And he's kind of been sneaky, like the heart and soul of this Blues bottom six lately. He really just brings that energy anytime he's out there. He's like a little water bug just flying up and down the ice, getting in everyone's business. Like yeah, just boom, he's over there. Boom, he's over there. Puck's in the corner, Nathan Walker's there. Puck's popping out front for a rebound, he's there too. He's been everywhere, and I really like his game. I think he brings a lot to that bottom six and to that fourth line that was once a revolving door that we kind of talked about at the beginning of the season. So for once, Tommy, I think we're kind of on the same page. We almost got co-locked on player of the game. I think Logan Brown, Nathan Walker, and Dakota Joshua, I believe. I think that fourth line is going to have some success tonight. So for that reason, I'm picking Nathan Walker as my lockdown player of the game. That being said, though, Tommy, unless you got anything else to add, I think that's all we got.
I just like the identity of that fourth line. And I don't think it's completely where it wants to be yet because, like you said, it's kind of been a revolving door. And like Toropchenko is not healthy right now, and they're having guys mix in and mix out. But I think by the time that playoff starts, it's absolutely going to be where it wants to be and it needs to be for the Blues to be successful and gaining that momentum going into it. So that bottom six, that fourth line getting a goal tonight in particular would absolutely help on that path. So
again, Nathan Walker's going to get himself another hat trick, obviously.
Yeah, I like the odds there.
Oh, man, I wonder what the odds would be on that one. Anyways, that being said, that is all the time we have for you guys today. Late game tonight, so we'll be following along on Twitter. And we should have another similar recap and preview episode tomorrow because I think they play late night against Saturday. So if you don't want to miss that or any future episodes, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that notification bell. That way you never miss a new upload. You never miss seeing us in crystal clear HD. We're having a lot of fun doing that. Growing past 200 subscribers. It's been great. Follow us on all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at Locked On Blues. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Hyman NHL. Follow Tommy at TWelcher15. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, let's go Blues.